What's good? This is JVB representing SPD, and that is sportsperdiem.com. To trade or not to trade if you're the Chicago Bulls for Anthony Davis. Now, as we heard a few days ago, Anthony Davis told the New Orleans Pelicans that he wants out. He wants to be traded this year, and he would like to be traded to either the Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers, or the New York Knicks. The NBA trade deadline is February 7th, so it's not that far away. It's only a week away. So it's interesting to see what the New Orleans Pelicans are going to do, because they've basically been put in the corner. They've basically been put – their best player, their star player said, hey, I'm not going to sign an extension. I want out. Send me to these three teams. Now, if they want to, yeah, they can send him to those three teams, but they don't need to send him to those three teams because he doesn't have a no-trade clause. They could trade him wherever the fuck they want to trade him. If they can get the best deal, they can trade him to wherever they want to. And for me, that's where I ask the question as a Chicago Bulls fan, and to my Chicago Bulls fans out there, should the Bulls be interested in Anthony Davis? Should the Bulls trade for Anthony Davis? Now, after this news came out about Anthony Davis wanting out of New Orleans, Brian Windhorst, NBA analyst, insider type of guy, he was on his podcast and he said one of the worst kept secrets is that Anthony Davis does not want to play for his hometown team in the Chicago Bulls. Is that facts? Maybe. I'm not sure. Adrian Wojnarowski was on Chicago local radio yesterday, and he was asked that same question, and he said he never heard about that. He doesn't know if that's really a true statement. But whether the statement is true or not, and it could be because maybe it's because of the organization itself, but whether it's true or not, as a team, as an organization in the Chicago Bulls, it still shouldn't stop you from calling New Orleans as soon as you hear something like this. You need to call them. Now, the question that I pose to everyone else is, should they bring in Anthony Davis? And I'm going to give a couple of reasons why and a couple of reasons why they probably shouldn't. First, let me give the reasons why out the way. Let me get some positivity out the way real quick. They should make the trade because it's Anthony Davis. Simple as that. 25 years old, one of the best players in the NBA. He's a beast. He's proven. We've seen him dominate on a daily basis in this league. Now, I'm a big Lauri Markkanen fan, but will Lauri Markkanen ceiling ever reach what Anthony Davis has done so far in his career? I'm not sure. He might be expendable in this situation. If Zach LaVine was to be included in that package, same thing. And I think Lauri's ceiling is higher than Zach LaVine's. And I love Zach as well, but he's not a transcendent player. He's a piece, a really good piece, on a good team. Like a 2A, 2B, maybe 3A on a super elite team. That's what Zach LaVine is. And I believe Lauri, with his potential, can definitely be a 2A, 1B fringe kind of player. I have that much belief in Lauri Markkanen. But with that being said, Anthony Davis is 1A all the way. Now, if he went to a team like the Lakers, he will take a step back probably, let LeBron run the show a little bit, but LeBron know better. That's why LeBron was trying to, he put it out there a month or so ago about how fun it would be to play with Anthony Davis, because he know what it is. He know how great Anthony Davis is on the basketball court. I talked about Lauri. I talked about Zach. Those have been the names kind of bantered about if there was to be a trade to New Orleans, and also the Bulls' first-round draft pick. Now, I'm going to spin it this way. The Bulls, I believe right now, the Bulls have like the third worst record in the NBA. And this year's lottery is like, if you got one of the top 4 picks, you're in pretty good shape compared to the rest of the teams in the lottery to get that number 1 overall pick. The odds are pretty good for the top 4 worst records in the NBA. And the Bulls look like they will have one of those 4 worst records in the NBA. You don't know if you're going to win the lottery. You just don't know. Yeah, they won the lottery back in the day and they got D-Rose. That was awesome. I admit that was awesome, but you just can't guarantee that you get the first overall pick or even the second overall pick or even the third overall pick. You might get the 4th overall pick. And in this draft, all the scouts are saying that it's really, really, really top heavy. Like top 3 top heavy. You got Zion Williamson, who everybody's going to probably want. You have R.J. Barrett, his teammate. And then you have the other guy, I forgot his name, but if you watch basketball, you know who I'm talking about. But those are the top 3 guys right now projected in the NBA draft, and it's by a landslide. Nobody's even coming close to those guys. So there's a chance that the draft pick that you trade to New Orleans can be the 4th overall pick. You may not get the top 3 pick. So why not take that chance and package that to New Orleans and get AD? Because that's as enticing as any of those 3 teams that Anthony Davis wants to go to. The Knicks, they have the same chance. They're among those 4 worst teams in the NBA right now. They have a chance to get the number 1 overall pick. But as far as the players, the pieces coming back to New Orleans that's been in the league, they don't have nobody like Lauri Markkanen and Zach LaVine. They don't. Who you going to send down there? Kevin Knox and who? Who are you going to send down there? Kevin Knox and Frankie K? Hell no. New Orleans going to be like, hell no. You got to give us draft picks for the next 5 to 10 years if that's the case. No. But for the other 2 teams, there is a possibility with certain players. But are those teams willing to give up those players in the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers? If you're trading for Anthony Davis, you're going to have to give up a nice little ransom. You're going to have to give up on some guys that you may really like and you may want to see grow, but the name of the game is to win right now. So to the Celtics, Kyrie Irving isn't a free agent after the 2020 season. He's a free agent after this season. And there's no guarantee that he's going to return to Boston next season. There's no guarantee that he will re-sign with the Celtics. So if you're Danny Ainge, what do you do? Yes, you made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year without Kyrie Irving, without Gordon Hayward, with a young nucleus led by a rookie at the time, Jason Tatum. They did go to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, but we saw in Game 7 on their home court that, they were too young for that moment. They were inexperienced for that moment. And it would have been nice if they did have Kyrie Irving or an Anthony Davis to be that go-to man at the end of the game to secure that win and go on to the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. But if you're Danny Ainge, the question lies, what will you do? Do you really believe that you can win the NBA Finals this season? Do you believe you can come out of the Eastern Conference this season? If both of those questions are yes and yes, then yeah, you will have to trade for Anthony Davis, which means you will have to give up on a couple of these young guys. And they do have Sacramento's first-round pick this season, and it's not protected. But unfortunately for them, the Kings have been a pretty good team. They've been pretty solid. They may not make the playoffs, so it still may be a lottery pick, but it's going to be in the mid-tier. It's going to be like a a 13, 14, 15 overall pick because Sacramento has played pretty well this season. So, okay, you will package that pick to New Orleans, and what else? Which player will you give up on? Now, if you're in New Orleans, the player you obviously want back will be Jason Tatum. And the only other guy they may want is Jaylen Brown. And that's about it. Would that be enough for Boston to get AD? Maybe. Maybe we'll see. We didn't expect DeMarcus Cousins a couple of years ago to be traded from Sacramento to New Orleans for what they gave up. So anything is possible. And with Danny Ainge leading the way, you know, as a Bulls fan, I'm jealous because with our front office, it's night and day. It's night and day compared to the Boston Celtics and how Danny Ainge runs everything compared to how John Paxson and Gar Forman run things over here. It's night and day. But with Danny Ainge, he's a smart dude. I believe he will make the right decision. He knows this team better than anyone else. He'll make the right decision whether or not they go all in on Anthony Davis or do they just stand pat because they don't know what Kyrie's going to do at the end of this year and they don't want to lose a really good talent in Jason Tatum. But that was the Celtics side of it. Now let me get to the Lakers real quick. Now the Lakers don't have an enticing draft pick, but they have a few young players that may become really, really good players in this league, if not great. Well, I won't say great, but they can become really, really good players in this league. The three young guys I'm talking about is Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon Ingram. Okay, so of the three guys, the most consistent producer has been Kyle Kuzma. And it's funny because of those three guys, Kyle Kuzma was drafted later in the first round. He was the 27th overall pick last season, whereas Lonzo was the number 2 overall pick last year. And I believe Brandon Ingram was the number 2 overall pick in his draft. But of the three, Kyle Kuzma, at this point, is the best player of the three. As for the other two guys, Brandon Ingram is a pretty good scorer. He's very inconsistent on a day-to-day basis, but he has shown a lot of flashes of scoring. He's not going to really do everything else for you. He's not going to really rebound great. He's not going to facilitate the ball too well. He's just pretty much a one-dimensional player. He's not a really good defensive player. He's basically a one-dimensional player as a scorer. Could he become a dynamic scorer where his facilitating and his defense doesn't really matter? I'm not sure about that. I don't believe so, but maybe New Orleans does, you know. And if they get him and Kyle Kuzma or, you know, in some kind of package like that, maybe that'll work. But I believe between him and Kyle Kuzma, because they're both scorers, I believe they definitely want Kyle Kuzma first. Like, he's like number one option. With Lonzo, I'm going to go out and say, I mean, I'm not the biggest Lonzo Ball fan as a player, but I'm not going to be too harsh on him like a lot of people are. A lot of people really dog on him because of who his father is and how LeVar came out and how he was a couple of years ago before Lonzo was coming out for the NBA draft. A lot of people were rubbed the wrong way and they hated, they just put hate on Lonzo and they hated Lonzo. Now, first of all, if he was a great player, like up to this point so far, none of that shit would matter. Everybody won't, people won't dog him like they're dogging him, but they are because he hasn't been as good of a player as they may have thought he could be. But I believe with a change of scenery, it can help him. And I know he's from LA, but sometimes it's best to not play in your hometown, which is kind of funny because this is videos about Anthony Davis and whether or not the Bulls should pursue him. But maybe that's part of the reason he doesn't want to be here or allegedly doesn't want to be here because of the pressure of playing in his hometown. Now, I don't think that's the case with him, but I think it is the case with Lonzo to a degree because he has so much pressure on him. He grew up in California, went to high school, played at UCLA, and now he's a Los Angeles Laker, and a lot of pressure comes from that. Not just the pressure of him playing in his hometown, but playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, one of the biggest, most famous franchises in the NBA or in sports in general. Add to the fact that LeBron is on the team, and he's going to handle the ball a lot. The ball will be in LeBron James' hands most of the time. And then they signed Rajon Rondo, and he's the same way. He's a facilitator. He's a pass-first point guard, just like Lonzo is. So he needs the ball as well. And it just doesn't mesh well when you got Lonzo on the court, just standing behind the three-point line waiting on the pass to be thrown to him, because he's not a great three-point shooter. He's not a great shooter in the first place. His best game is to handle the ball and facilitate. So I do believe it's best for Lonzo's career if he can be traded, and he's a young player, so he can be able to grow. He's not going to be able to grow as effectively with LeBron on the team. Rondo there as well, taking quote-unquote snaps away from him to grow. He needs to grow, and if he was to be included in the Anthony Davis trade, I think that would make the most sense for Lonzo in the long run in his NBA career. But now that I've discussed the three teams that Anthony Davis wants to go to and those potential trade packages, let me get back to the Bulls and the trade package that I proposed early on. I was talking about Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, and this year's first-round draft pick. Now, that trade package compares quite well, if not better, than all three teams. Of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and in this case, the beholder is the New Orleans Pelicans. It's up to them to evaluate each trade package and figure out which players will help benefit them the most in the years to come. Because you can't fuck this up if you're New Orleans, because you are trading away one of the best players in the world. You need to get back the best group of young players that you can possibly get, and you have to figure out which group of those young players best suits what you want to do for the upcoming years and beyond. But if you are a Chicago Bulls fan and you do want Anthony Davis, this is going to have to be the way you get him. You're going to have to trade for him, because he's not going to just up and sign here after the 2020 season. He's going to have to be here for the duration of this year and for all of next season. And he's going to have to be sold on staying here. Kind of like the Paul George situation from last season with OKC. Now, the biggest difference between Paul George and if Anthony Davis was to be traded to the Bulls is the Bulls don't have Russell Westbrook. They don't. So it'll be a lot harder to sell Anthony Davis on re-signing with the Bulls, but you never know. You never know what's going on in somebody's head. Maybe he realizes that he should play in front of his hometown fans in his hometown of Chicago. You never know. But I had to paint out a scenario for those Bulls fans who would indeed trade for Anthony Davis. It will be nice to see him in a Bulls jersey, but I got to turn heel right now. I have to become the bad guy. Or not even a bad guy, but just the logical guy right now, because they shouldn't pursue Anthony Davis. They have no reason to really pursue Anthony Davis. Do you know who runs the Chicago Bulls? I'm going to let that marinate real quick. You know what? I'm going to ask again. Do you know who runs the Chicago Bulls operation? John Paxson, along with his buddy Gar Forman. Now, John Paxson has been in power for 16 years. 16 years. And this team has never won anything. Yes, they had some good seasons. They've won 50 games a few times. They had a 60-win season They had some really good draft picks, including an MVP in Derrick Rose. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals one season. Yes, that's nice. That's all nice. That's cute. But mind you, I said they went to the Eastern Conference Finals one season. They won 50 games a number of times, 60 games once. And they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals once. 16 years. One Eastern Conference Finals appearance. Then you have your best head coach since Phil Jackson and Tom Thibodeau. Yes, he was not perfect. He worked the shit out of players. No doubt about that. But he was the best coach this team had since Phil Jackson, and you ran him out because you got tired of his ways. They were so full of themselves that they felt that the Chicago Bulls way works with any head coach. It doesn't matter who the head coach is, this team will succeed. So what ended up happening? They started butting heads with Tom Thibodeau. They started micromanaging Tom Thibodeau until the point came where you knew they were going to let Tom Thibodeau go. They didn't like a head coach taking the reins and doing things the way he wants it to be. They wanted to control the narrative. They want to control the situation. So what did they do? They fired Tom Thibodeau and they signed Fred Hoiberg, a man who was destined to fail as soon as he signed that contract. Once Fred Hoiberg got to the Bulls, he lost the locker room already. He didn't have a chance to win over the locker room. He lost the locker room already because he could not control the egos in that locker room. He could not control the Derrick Rose contingent. He could not control the new diva coming up in Jimmy Butler. He could not control Pau Gasol and Joakim Noah. He could not control these guys. Then after the season, they let Derrick go. They let Joakim go. And then in the press conference, Gar Forman says, we're going to get younger and more athletic. And the first thing you do is draft one of the most unathletic players in the draft in Denzel Valentine. To put the whipped cream and cherry on top, you sign Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo. But you want to get younger and more athletic. But you sign Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade. Really? Really, Garpax? Really? So I'm going to fast forward this because this video damn near 30 minutes. I have no faith in this front office. I don't. Not only do I have no faith in the front office, the players currently do not have faith in the front office. So if the players don't have faith in the front office and the fans don't have faith in the front office, don't you believe the rest of the league knows this? Nobody wants to play for a team like this. So if the Bulls were to make a trade for Anthony Davis, you damn right he's going to leave after 2020. It will never work because nobody wants to play for this front office. I have all the belief in the world. If John Paxson stepped down and they brought in someone new, a young, innovative mind who knows the league, who knows analytics, to run this team, slowly but surely this team, this franchise, will get the respectability back that they once had. And I'm not even talking about the 90s because even though they were winning championships in the 90s, they still had this reputation, the front office. New faces, same shit, pretty much. But in regards to Anthony Davis, again, I wouldn't even make the trade because Anthony Davis will not re-sign with this team. So you're basically losing Anthony Davis, Lauri Markkanen, and Zach LaVine or Chris Dunn or the first-round pick. However you want to package that deal, you're losing all those players for nothing, pretty much, because Anthony Davis will not re-sign with this team if he was to be traded to this team. Another reason why you shouldn't make the trade is because you're not ready to win anything anyway. This team is in the rebuilding stage. They need to continue to build this franchise back up. And it will help if they were to win the NBA lottery this season. Because if you can get any of those top 3 players in the draft, especially Zion, if you can get Zion Williamson on this team, that will expedite the process. You will have a young, dynamic, playmaking, athletic freak to go along with Lauri Markkanen and Zach LaVine, possibly Chris Dunn and Wendell Carter Jr. for years to come. But if you're the Bulls, that's the route you're going to take. You need to take that route. And by the way, you won't have this same coach. Jim Boylen will not be the head coach because if he is, this team ain't going to go nowhere because he cannot develop talent. And I'll get to him in another video. But he cannot develop talent. He's a 1980s head coach in 2019. The style of game he preaching, this 1997 fucking basketball, no. Every time they get the ball, they should be running. The Atlanta Hawks, trash. But guess what? They push the ball because they're a young team. Sacramento Kings aren't a trash team, but they are a young team. And what do? They push the ball. Chicago Bulls are a young team with athletic players. Chris Dunn at point. Zach LaVine. Lauri Markkanen, who's athletic for his size. Same thing with Wendell Carter Jr. Why are we doing half-court sets? You know why? Because Jim Boylen does not know how to coach in 2019. But I'm done, man. The Chicago Bulls should not trade for Anthony Davis because, A, they're not ready to win. 2, I have no faith in this franchise to give Anthony Davis a reason to stay after the 2020 season. And C, I'm hoping since the lottery is in Chicago this year, the ping pong balls will bounce the right way and the Bulls can get at least the top 3, more so top 2 pick. But I do really want Zion Williamson because he will bring energy to this franchise because this franchise desperately needs it. But I appreciate the listen. I know the video long as hell, but I appreciate it. Make sure you comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Once again, thank you for the listen. I truly appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share this video. Take it easy. God bless. Peace.